Hello, Facebook family. It is so good to see you. I haven't made a video in what seems like forever, but I've been out of the country, fortunately. Got to do a cruise. That was wonderful. But today I want to show you 5 things or herbs that you can plant only one time. Some of them can be qualified as food, but most have medicinal properties. So I wanted to share that with you today. So to start off with, let me show you here. Turn the camera around. This is dill, and you can see it's blooming nicely. Now these little flowers will go to seed, and of course when they drop off, it plants more dill. You only have to plant that one time. I planted this about 5 years ago. The majority of this has been 5 to 6 years ago. So dill, your number one, is good for gastrointestinal. So bloating, gas. Is often said that kings had this on the table when they would have their huge banquets and such to relieve bloating and gas of their guests. It's also good for, well, just that's all I can remember for the moment. So anyway, let's go to another plant. And let me looky here. This looks like an overgrown patch of weeds. And you are right. It is, because I've been gone, haven't had time to do much. But the other thing is what we have. Some of you will recognize these leaves. And you've heard leaves of 3, let them be. But if we followed that rule, we would never have the strawberry. This is strawberry. Anytime that you get strawberries to plant, make sure that they are ever bearing. Again, we planted these about 8 years ago. And trying noticing this little spider here, somewhere in there. I got spiders and crickets, probably garter snake in here somewhere. Anyway, back to my strawberries. We planted these about 8 years ago, and something's been gnawing on my plants, and I already know what it is. It's deer. I digress. Back to strawberries. So we planted these one time. We had a little bitty patch, about 3 foot by 3 foot. Now they're starting to spread and go all throughout. So I've got to be really careful when I start pulling weeds. Okay, the next thing that we'll go to while I'm looking at it is this fuzzy bunch of mess. And this is asparagus. And I'm trying to find some that might have some berries on it. And the berries are actually a seed pod, and I've covered this before in some other videos. Asparagus, you only have to plant one time. It will grow, it will spread, and you can just harvest if you're available. It is recommended that you wait at least 2 years before you harvest after you plant, so you have to be patient. So we've covered the dill, and we have strawberries, we have asparagus, one time that you plant. The next plant is a love-hate relationship, and here lately it's more of a hate relationship. This is mint. You'll notice the characteristics being that sharp toothed leaf, and you also have a square stem. Okay, I wish I could chop that off and get a macro shot. I wish you could smell it. It does smell really good. But this is good for everything from headaches. You would just crush it in your hands like this, and then rub your temples with it. So, rub your temple. If you have a headache, and believe it or not, let me get you in frame. Believe it or not, in about 10 minutes, your headache will be gone. Now, I don't have a headache, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I went to Lowe's, and I purchased mint in a cute little peat pot container. This stuff will take over. It does smell nice when it's cut, and it is medicinal, and you can make teas, but I'm starting to hate it. Okay, anyway, another plant. This is oregano, and this particular one is starting to bloom. Some have already bloomed and dropped seed back into this galvanized wash tub that I've poked some holes in the bottom so it can drain. But this has been here again for about 5 or 6 years, and this is plenty of oregano for my family. Spaghetti sauce, pizza, any Italian dish is good. Also, oregano is medicinal, and that will be for a urinary tract infection. It'll help to stop bedwetting if you have a problem with that. I hope not. So maybe in children. And oh, it's good also for colds, coughs, bronchitis. And although I don't plant this, this is purslane. Purslane is more of a wild weed. You can buy seeds, but hopefully this will produce little pretty yellow flowers and some seed pods, and it just keeps coming back every year, which we put into a salad mixed with cucumbers, tomatoes, and some apple cider vinegar and a little bit of salt and pepper. It is absolutely delicious. The thing about purslane is it has more omega-3s per ounce than fish. Yes, so especially if you're on a vegetarian diet, if you need to go in for surgery, you can't eat heavy meats and things like that, but you still need your omega-3s, right? So look into purslane. You will love it. I think that's all we have, so let's go up the steps. Got my smoker out here. Love my smoker. The next thing, I've already harvested these, is chives. These chives, and everything out here that I've shown you so far sits out all winter long, gets occasionally 2 to 2.5 feet of snow on them, and every year they come back. Now I've got some young rosemary, which I do have to plant every year because it's more of a not a tropical, but rather a sandy area. It grows really well in Italy. It's almost invasive in Italy when I was over there, but just loved it. And also the basil. We love basil, and plan to have homemade pizza this week sometime. I have to plant that every year. But rosemary, basil, thyme, chives. Here's one. It's looking kind of sick because we haven't had any sun for about a week now, so it really needs some sun. But I really enjoy my rosemary, and rosemary acid is exceptionally good for colds, coughs, bronchitis. There's another little small pot of chives. So let's see what we have. I think I'm going to show you one more plant that has survived. This has been about 7 years. They're so tiny they almost look, but this is thyme. If I could turn back time, well, I just did. I turned it back. So anyway, my thyme has stayed out here, and just like everything else, it stays in this old plastic, I think it was cat litter bucket or something. I don't have a cat, but we found it and it became our best friend for our plant, and it stayed out here and weathered the winter. And you can see where it busted out really was an accident, where I was teaching my youngest son how to drive, and well, he did not realize where the brake was and instead missed it, mistakenly put his foot on the fuel instead of the brake and run into it, but it survived, so I'm happy about that. Enough rambling. Just a quick video of showing you 5 things that you can plant that will survive here in Southwest Virginia. That it'll survive the snow, the rain, the heat, the drought. These are basically You don't have to water them. I do occasionally if I think, they're getting a little dry. If I see they need some water, then I will water them. Otherwise, nah. Let nature take its course. And they work extremely well. I hope you find this beneficial. If you're looking for things to plant that you don't have to really keep up with a whole lot. Also, if you're not part of the family, I hope you decide to join, because I really enjoy having you along. Thanks again, and now that I'm back off of vacation, I'll see you soon with another video.